Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a really interesting text. It's called Talking About Jesus, Choosing the Eyes of Faith.
Hmm.
And our mission really is to explore what this specific source says about how we perceive things, especially, tough situations.
Yeah.
It talks about these different lenses we can use. The author contrasts the limits of physical sight with the perspective of faith.
Right. And what's key right off the bat is how the text frames faith. It argues it's not about denying what's happening.
Okay.
Instead, it's positioned as recognizing what the source calls a greater reality, the reality of God's promises. It really makes you think about what shapes our understanding.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit because we all know that feeling, don't we? You see a problem, maybe storm clouds literally or, bad news financially.
Yeah, the tangible stuff.
Exactly. The source says our physical eyes see what is immediate, tangible, and measurable. It gives examples like seeing illness and immediately dreading the worst.
Right. Direct sensory input. But the text argues that this physical sight, well, it doesn't lie exactly, but it simply tells an incomplete story. That's the phrase used. And without some other context, what the source calls divine truth, our minds just interpret those facts based on, well, human experience.
Which can lead straight to anxiety or feeling discouraged, right?
Exactly. Despair, even. So the text kind of pushes us.
Yep.
What fills in those gaps in the story? Is it just fear or something else?
So that leads us to the other perspective.
Ah.
It offers the eyes of faith. It suggests these look through a totally different lens. The text says it's the lens of God's word.
So using that lens, you might see the very same storm clouds.
Right, same storm.
But the text invites you to remember stories like Jesus walks on the waves. It shifts the focus.
Or seeing scarcity, but remembering accounts like God fed his people manna.
Yeah.
It's about bringing another narrative into view.
Precisely. And it acknowledges sickness. It doesn't ignore it. But it holds on to this idea, this promise that the Lord is the healer.
So faith here isn't ignoring the pain or the danger.
Not at all, according to this source. It's about interpreting it differently. In light of what the text calls God's unchanging character, his unwavering faithfulness, his covenant love.
That phrase, covenant love, sounds significant, like a binding promise.
Exactly, unbreakable. The text stresses that his promises are not fragile wishes. They are guaranteed by his own nature and power. That's a huge claim.
Okay, so how does this play out practically, if it's not just a feeling?
Well, the source is very clear. Trusting God in this framework isn't just an emotion. It's presented as a deliberate act of the will.
A choice.
A conscious choice. The text actually says, I must choose which eyes I will use, the physical eyes of sight or the spiritual eyes of faith.
Wow. And it frames the outcome starkly. The first will anchor me to fear, the second will anchor me to Christ. That takes discipline.
It does. And the text connects that choice directly to how you experience trials. It suggests that viewing things through faith allows you to, quote, rest, even if the winds howl. To rejoice, even if the outcome is unseen. And maybe, hardest of all, to obey, even when the path is unclear.
Why? What's the foundation for that?
Because the text says, you know the one who leads me. It shifts the focus from the circumstances to the character of God, as presented in the source.
So it's an active thing, like constantly choosing where to look. The source calls it turning the gaze of your heart, remembering those covenant promises and past faithfulness.
Yeah, like a prayer of commitment, as the text puts it. It's about actively cultivating that trust.
And the ultimate aim seems to be finding rest.
Resting in who you are is the phrase, because you, O Lord, are the same yesterday, today, and forever. That foundational belief, that assurance, is presented as the goal, regardless of what your physical eyes are seeing right now.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the really powerful takeaway from this text seems to be the impact of that deliberate choice in perspective. Whether you focus on the immediate, tangible view, which the source warns can lead to fear, or whether you choose, as this text suggests, to anchor your view in a different reality, an unseen one, that might bring a different kind of stability or peace.
Right. And maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. How might this specific concept from the text, this idea of choosing your eyes, physical or spiritual, apply beyond its explicit religious framework? Where else in life do you face uncertainty where choosing your lens, your perspective, might change everything?